All right, good evening, everybody. It's Thursday, January 22nd, and we're going to call this session of the Ridgefield City Council to order. Would you please rise and join me for the flag salute as Councilor Burkroll leads us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Miss Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Favela. Here. Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Burkle.
Present.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Here.
Mayor Cole.
Present. Thank you very much. Mr. Stewart, any late changes to the agenda tonight?
No late changes, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to move on. We have public comment as the first portion of our meeting. I'll preface this by saying we do have a public hearing at the end of the meeting. I think there are some people here to speak during the public hearing, and if that is regarding the Kelly annexation, I'm just going to ask that you wait until the public hearing to do that. But if you have something to speak on otherwise, we're going to do public comment for that. So anybody wishing to address the City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to the podium or use the raise hand feature located at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press star 9 for raise hand and press star 6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Jennings.
My name is Michael Jennings. So to all the Ridgefield city managers and staff, please don't allow delivery by drones. Amazon and Walmart are beginning to do drone delivery. The problem, I'll just name 3 of the problems, but there's a lot in what I sent you in an email. The noise of a drone will tell thieves where to find a package to steal. A drone could crash on your roof or fly through your window and then burn your house with a lithium battery fire. Over houses, drones will be noisy, scarily noisy for the entire local neighborhood. So I gave 3 paper copies to the city clerk, and if you want, it's copyrighted, but if you want to send it to people who work for Ridgefield, that's fine. That's everything.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Stoss.
Thank you, Mayor Cole, distinguished council, city staff, and interested citizens. My name is Don Stoss, and I live in Wishing Wells Estates here in Ridgefield. I want to talk to you briefly about the Oberreuter-Dingenhart petition to annex.
Mr. Stoss, we will have a public hearing.
Actually, this is the second reading.
Sorry, Counselor Favela.
No, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, but the public hearing is for Kelly.
Yeah.
Thank you, I got it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. The land in question is a beautiful green space surrounded by numerous old-growth timber to include cedar, fir, white and black oak that could potentially be considered heritage trees that have been habitat for bald eagles to nest and raise their young. The forested areas have created sanctuaries for black-tailed deer to mate and raise their offsprings. To the east of the property runs a stream constituting a riparian habitat area. Riparian areas are super important because they help maintain the health of waterways and surrounding ecosystems. Please help us preserve this land to protect the water quality, reduce erosion, and provide wildlife habitat in this area. There are very few natural forested habitat areas left in Ridgefield that are surrounded by subdivisions. I'm asking this council to deny the applicant's petition to annex. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoss. Is there anybody else wishing to give public comment this evening?
Good evening, Mayor Cole, City Council members, City staff. My name is Doug Kohlmeyer. My wife Stephanie and I reside at 2040 South 26th Avenue. We're appearing before you today regarding the Oberreuter-Dingenhart petition to annex. Our property connects to the Oberreuter property at the dead end of 26th Street in the Wishing Wells subdivision. We also submitted a letter for the first hearing back in December. We have 3 points we'd like to make to the council. 1, we have considerable concerns over this proposal to annex. We anticipate that through annexation, this will provide city infrastructure to these properties and thus facilitate another subdivision. If this property is purchased by a developer and access egress is in part or entirely through 26th Avenue, it has the potential to more than double current traffic within our subdivision, drastically impact the 75 homeowners of Wishing Wells Estates and traffic on Hillhurst, and increase cut-through traffic that currently occurs to the high school. G Creek is G Creek is a fourth-order tributary to the Columbia River. Recent data shows G Creek has poor stream health, most likely due to runoff from agriculture, developed, and residential areas. Over the past 160 years, the entire length of G Creek has been subject to combined effects of farming, urbanization. Accelerating this growth will continue to change conditions in this watershed. Additionally, we have firsthand knowledge of the considerable wildlife that utilizes this property on a daily basis. Various raptors, deer, coyote, owls, eagles, pollinators, just to name a few. Just a few short weeks ago, we watched two bald eagles sitting in the trees at the dead end of 26th Avenue. And this isn't in my draft, but the tree that they were sitting in would have to be removed if 26th Street had to be extended to access this property. Last week, there were two red-tailed hawks hunting on this property, and this evening, before this meeting, 4 black-tailed deer were feeding a doe, 2 yearlings, and a small buck. We would ask the City Council to consider these impacts and deny this annexation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to give public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none. Miss Julie, anybody online?
Not seeing anyone online there.
Okay, great. If not, we will close public comment, and we will move on to the consent agenda. Council, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Burkle, seconded by Favela. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. Motion carries. And we have a presentation this evening. I'm pleased to welcome the Pink Patch donation to Pink Lemonade by Chief Doriot. So come on forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to just speak briefly. We came back to you back in 2025 to talk about our Pink Patch program that we were going to do. And the exciting part was that Officer Kaylin Debiak had stepped up. She was very excited to take over that challenge. And I can't say enough words about what an amazing job she did. So I have asked her to come here tonight to speak with you directly about the progress that we made with our Pink Patch program last year.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Chief Doriot said, I'm here tonight as a follow-up to the Pink Patch presentation that I shared with you in October, and give you an update on how things went once the patches went out into our community. The success of this project really came down to our local businesses who stepped up and helped us sell the patches around town. I sincerely want to thank Lava Java, Beverage, the Richfield Refuge Bar, Seasons Coffee, Brewed Awakenings, the Richfield Flower Shop, and TAPS for partnering with us and helping us bring this effort to life. They didn't just put the patches on the counter. They helped spread awareness and start conversations and show what makes the community so special. We truly couldn't have done this without them. I also want to give a special shout out to TAPS, who once again went above and beyond with their generosity, and they consistently show up for this cause, and that makes a really big difference for us. Because of the support from the department, the city, the community partners, and everyone who purchased a patch, we were able to raise $3,900.58 through this effort. Those funds will go directly towards supporting breast cancer research, education, and services of the Pink Patch Project. At this point, I'd like to invite the senior board member of the Pink Lemonade Project, Don Stos, up to accept this check on behalf of the Ridgefield Police Department and our community. Thank you again for your commitment and your continued support through this journey, and I appreciate it. Hope to come back next year. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And hold on. So, first of all, I just want to thank you and Chief Doria. She started this program, 7 years ago, and took it viral. I mean, almost every agency in Southwest Washington has adopted the Pink Patch program. And Jason from Kindness 911 jumped on board as well, and thank you. I want to publicly thank you for your donation as well. But Officer Dabiak, it's your patch that really kicked it out of the park this year. I mean, you did an awesome job. And so that's one of the reasons why, every year this check gets bigger and bigger. And I just can't tell you how much it supports Pink Lemonade Project and how much better we're able to do every year. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Stoss, would you be willing to take a picture with Officer Dabiak up in front of the council? I don't know if council just wants to stand
Yeah, we can just stand up.
and huddle. Stand and huddle. There you go. Okay, thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you. Yeah, thank you again. And thank you for coming, Officer Dabiak. And we hope you'll come back next year because this is such a great program, as former Mayor Stoss indicated. So thank you so much. Okay, we have a few items of business before us this evening. The first one tonight is a motion to approve the 2026 Planning Commission work plan. And for that, I'm going to invite Claire Lust up to give the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council and members of the public. We have our Planning Commission Chair, Mark Tyler, here tonight to give a brief presentation on the work plan. So I will go ahead and slowly hand it over to Mr. Tyler.
Thank you. Mayor Cole, Council, Mark Tyler, Chair of the Planning Commission. Happy to be here tonight to present our 2026 Planning Commission work program that we've voted on earlier this month. I won't go over every single item, but just kind of to touch on some of the high-level stuff. Obviously, during this first half of this year, we are going to be focusing on continuing to work through the comprehensive plan update and providing feedback and recommendations to council as they're looking to lead up to that adoption later this year. And then this, obviously after that will lead us into updating the Title 18 of the Ridgefield Municipal Code and how we can amend that or as needed based on the updated comp plan. Directly tied into that is we'd like to really work with council and other commissions and groups to work with the public to help inform them and answer their questions and help them understand this process and how it's going forward, and to continue to engage with the public to help them better understand the role of the Planning Commission and our role as advisors and to assist the City Council in our kind of sphere of influence. And then one last thing I'll just touch on is training. I think is going to be a big thing for us this year. I've been on the Planning Commission for about 4 years now, and Commissioner Flynn has been on for a bit longer than I. But the other 5 members, we got 3 new members this month for the first time, and 2 others recently. And so I think one about a year ago and one just a couple months ago. So I want to work to really to go through some trainings, better help understand how the development process works, how the rest of the city works, so that we can fulfill our roles better as members of the Planning Commission and help you to fulfill your roles as well. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tyler. Council, any questions for Mr. Tyler or Ms. Lust on the work plan? Councilor Davis.
No questions, but I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that the commission adopts, and I think that probably has a lot to do with the culture you guys have established, and hopefully with the new members that will continue. So appreciate all the hard work you guys put in. It does not go unnoticed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Tyler. I would love to just put a council, I don't speak for everyone, but I think I've heard this sentiment before, is that we truly do value your feedback. and those, like having that discussion and seeing the notes that we get on the amendments or things like that, that is truly something that we take into consideration and value highly. So I think just in the same way that we can have discussions and disagree on things and make motions and all that, I want to encourage you guys to really take a hold of that, and especially with the new people, really engage in that kind of dialogue, because we really appreciate it and we know how hard that can be, but it really is valued on our end. So I just wanted to pass that along to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Favela.
Yeah, I just appreciate you being here. We got to work together when I was on Planning Commission, and I always champion the Planning Commission's work, and I appreciate the training sentiment. That we spoke about that when I was on Planning Commission, and Ms. Luss does a fantastic job of making sure that her planning commissioners have information, but I think that anytime we can do more, it's better just to make those informed decisions, and council does, well, I appreciate, and I have heard the sentiments that Councilor Hamilton just shared, that we do value that feedback and input from Planning Commission. So thank you.
Councilor Wells.
I didn't have my mic on. We do value it because we're short of time, and you do all the legwork and then bring the finished product to us to turn around and critique a little bit. But the time that you spend on it is, like I said, very, very valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else wishing to speak? I'll just call out real quick. Oh, did you have something? Sorry.
I just wanted to extend to you my appreciation for your hard work in leading this very, very, very important part of the city of Ridgefield. I really appreciate it, and thank you very, very much.
I'm just going to piggyback on what Councilor Hamilton said too. I want to thank you for your perspective and how you advise us and a lot of the work we do, and because you often see it first. And you have a couple of big projects ahead of you. Number one being the comp plan. That is a monster. You know, it's every 10 years that we do that. And we really appreciate your effort to look through that and work through that with us. And then also, I know it's in its infancy, but I'm very excited about it. I'm glad to see that you have RISE, the sub-area plan on there for downtown. There's been a lot of excitement early on as sort of word gets out that this is going to be our big initiative for the year. So we're really looking forward to working with you and the rest of the Planning Commission on that, because it's going to take a lot of great minds coming together to make sure that we preserve downtown the way it should be. So thank you very much for that, including that as well. So. If there's no other questions, I'll look around one more time. I'll thank you again, and looking forward to working together throughout the year. Mr. Stewart, did you have something?
There's a
Sorry, I believe this is a motion to approve. Sorry.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. My bad. Yes, Council, I would entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 Planning Commission work plan.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Chipman and Favela. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you, Council. Motion carries. All right, thank you again. We have a second presentation. Tonight, this is the 2026 Parks Board Work Plan. And for that, we have Corey Cronhart, our Parks Manager, and Bridget Taylor, who's our Chair of the Parks Board.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to talk more about Parks and Recreation. With that, I'll start off by talking briefly about the work plan, and that it's really a strategic focus on providing system-wide supports for Parks and Recreation. Our primary project this year is going to be the update of the 2026 Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Plan, or what's affectionately called the PROS Plan. And this helps define the long-term strategy for Parks and Recreation, which is critical for the city of Ridgefield, especially as we are on the cusp of welcoming a significant new facility here in the city. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chair Taylor to talk a little bit more about the vision and the intent of the PROS plan, of the work plan. Second.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. The Parks Board sees the work plan as a way to support and inform Council's vision for parks, trails, and recreation. A core theme is maximizing existing assets, improving connectivity, safety, and usability of what the city already owns. The board is also focused on preparing for transformational change, as Mr. Crownhart mentioned, particularly the opening of the new community and recreation center. And the continued priority is addressing the safety gap along the Pioneer Street, connecting downtown to the rest of the city through safe trail access.
With that, we'll turn it back over to you to Mayor and Council for discussion.
Great. Great, thank you. Thank you both. Council, any questions for Ms. Taylor or Mr. Crownhart? Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. No, you guys did a great job with that. I'd just like to point out that it does reflect conversations that we had had earlier about, we were on this track of, we had like multiple park projects going at the same time, and it was like whittling away here and there, and then all of a sudden we'd start over and we'd have a few more start in the pipeline. It was like, okay, do we want to keep doing that, or do we want to prioritize just a handful of projects and really just kind of see them start to finish and manage the workflow that way? And I think that that's what we preferred, and I see that being a lot of it. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're only focused on one, but I like how, a lot of this work is going to be grant contingent, but I think it's focused and intentional. And so I really appreciate, the conversations that we'd all had being reflected in the work plan. So great work.
Great, thank you, Councilor. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for your work on this. I think that the parks just affect so many of our younger families. I mean, we want to have them available for kids and families and whatever, and I think you've just come up with a great plan for the future. So thank you very much.
Councilor Wells.
Miss Julie, could you put the screen back up that showed the parks that we were working on there for the audience? They're down in the bottom, capital project budgeted for 2026. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Council? Real quick, just on those capital projects, is that a prioritized order, or is that just kind of a list?
Those are not prioritized.
Okay.
There's no particular order of it.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just, I'll also say that I appreciate both the Parks Board and Planning Commission. These feel tighter than they have been, they're a little more consolidated, but there's some big punch in here. So like there's a lot of weighty projects. So, but I do appreciate these feeling a little more focused than they have in years past. And, I think that gives us some momentum to really focus on some of the big areas like the recreation center and like some of these parks. And so thank you for that. And we actually are just coming back from Olympia, where we spent a couple of days meeting with legislators and advocating for Horns Corner Park as an inclusive playground too, and got good reception from our legislators there all across Southwest Washington. So we're hopeful that request will be honored, and I would love to see that get done because, as you know, we're really big on inclusive parks on this council. So thank you very much again. Anybody else have anything to add to this? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion, Council.
I move to approve the 2026 Parks Board of Commissioners work plan as presented.
I'll second.
Well, it was moved by Davis, seconded by, I heard Wells first. Council, any discussion? That's right, advantage. All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Council. Motion carries, and thank you, Parks Board. Okay, our next item of business tonight, flip my page over. This is resolution number 671, update to the 2026 master fee schedule. For that, we'll go to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council and citizens. Periodically, the Community Development staff and Finance Department do review the fee schedule to make sure everything is up to date. As Council is well aware, last year we did a cost of service study and we did review all the fees within Community Development. One of the things that we wanted to do after that was just make sure that we had things in the right place. So we wanted to do some housekeeping on the fee schedule and kind of look at that as well. So some of the things we want to look at, there's not a lot of changes to the fee schedule, but we wanted to go over those and then have council review that tonight.
Typically, we do like to have this done before the first of the year so it can be effective on January 1st when we do have some indexing occurring. But we did want to make sure that we reviewed this pretty thoroughly, and we wanted to reach out to stakeholders and developers just to get their input as well. Ms. Lust did send out an email with the information for the changes in the fee schedule to 72 different stakeholders and developers. We only received one comment back, and the comment was they were just asking if the water system development charges will be increasing as part of this review, which it will not. So anyway, on the screen, we wanted to go over the different changes. Part of what council approved last year during the cost of service study was full cost recovery. They just reiterated a policy that they've had in place for many years, that development pays for development, and we do get full cost recovery. As part of that, we do review staff time, which is charged out on some of the fees, and for other things that staff may help with community. And so we wanted to look at that. We've had recent contractual changes with labor agreements and also cost of living increases. So we do have some increases to our hourly staff rates. And that will kind of feed through in anything where they're requesting assistance, and what that could be is another agency request that our police come and help them, or we do have an event where they're requesting police to be available like that. And then also inspection time when they're going out on site to review and do inspections that are outside of what's already covered in the permit itself. And so we did update those to make sure that we're getting full cost recovery on staff time. The second one is just looking at land use and development engineering inspection fees and making sure that they're in the right spot. This isn't a change to what the fee is, other than the inspection hourly rate went up. We've already been charging that. It's just we only indicated that there was that inspection fee in the building section of the master fee schedule. So we did want to move that to land use, engineering, and the building, just so that we're covering all bases to make sure for clarity that we're showing that charge. And again, that charge is only instituted after, I believe it's 2 reviews, and they get that as part of the permit fee. And then if there's excess reviews that come out of the development, then it would be charged at that time. And then we added a surcharge of $350 for encroachment permits, proposing a full street closure due to the impacts that can have on residents and neighborhoods. We have only had the one fee, so we wanted to break this out to a partial street closure and a full street closure, and add some clarity and kind of look at what is the impacts to our residents. Finally, the next one is increase engineering site plan application fees. This is accounting for the planner's final site plan review. This is a fee that we used to have in our fee schedule. We went through a lean process and included that particular work into another part of the process, but in doing that, we lost that fee. So that work's still being done, the cost is still there, but we weren't charging for it at that point. So we wanted to make sure we brought that in to that process and make sure that we're charging the fee that we should have had out there previously, similar to what we've been doing in the past. So the next increase or change was adding a fee for more than one round of pre-submittal architectural review as a courtesy to help all of our developers and also the mom and pop type applicants. We do a pre-submittal architectural review. That helps catch some things before they even submit so that it can reduce their cost and reduce the time to review that. But what's been happening is we've been getting that where they bring it in for that one review, but then they keep resubmitting for the same thing, not getting charged for it so that they don't get charged later when they do have some issues that come up after the application is submitted. So this way, they still get that free review, and we still help them get to that point, but then they need to go into the application process. They'll still get 2 additional reviews as part of the permit. So in essence, they're getting 3 reviews, and then after that, if it needs to go back because of errors in what they submit, then they would be charged at that time. And as part of RMC Chapter 9.14.010 that Council approved last year, we needed to add a code enforcement fee for violations of that new code that Council put in place. So we needed to make sure that was added in as well. Finally, our last 3, special event permit fee application. We have historically not charged a fee for that, but there's a lot of time involved. So we wanted to put a small nominal fee of $25. So that helps cover the staff time, and we're starting to get a lot more special event permit fees or permits. So we wanted to make sure that we are capturing some of that staff time and getting that covered. This in no way does cover the full amount, but we just want to make sure that there was something there to help out. This also will not cover if there's an event where they're doing it strictly for the purpose of free speech. That's free. There won't be any charges for that. And then community garden plots. This is another housekeeping one. We have never shown the cost for the community garden plots on the master fee schedule. It was always on the application. We've had requests as to where is that fee, where can I see it? So we want to make sure and put it into the fee schedule where it really should be. There's no change to the fee though. And then finally, for clarity, another housekeeping, for the TMI building, the community space that we have, we wanted to make sure that there was clarity in the language for the cleaning fee and deposit. Even for community partners, we will collect the deposit, but we don't charge a fee typically if they qualify as a community partner, but we wanted to make sure that it was clear that we will collect that fee if there's an activity such as they're serving food, having some sort of a food event, and or arts and crafts where we may have to have a cleaning staff come in after the fact. We do contract out for the cleaning. This would cover that. And it is a deposit. If there's no need for cleaning, then that is refunded. But we want to be clear, we didn't show that on the application, so we want to make sure that we're clear about that. That's the extent. Well, actually, we did have one more clarify. Oh, and yeah, the city partner applications, exact same thing. I kind of already explained that, but that was a separate one down below. Same exact thing with the cleaning fee and deposit. So that's the extent of the changes. So I'd entertain any questions or look for a motion.
Great, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Council, questions for staff on this one? We'll start with Councilor Wells.
Kurt, I've got a couple of questions. The first one was the encroachment fee. I didn't hear everything you said on that. Is that if somebody wants to put a culvert in, encroachment fee? How much? Huh?
The encroachment fee is adding a fee for a full road closure. So currently we just have a fee, and typically that would be more for a partial road closure. There's more impacts if we're closing the road completely, so we want to make sure that we're looking at that. Okay. And so that's what this fee is for.
So just putting a culvert in, not closing the road down or whatever, it's just a basic fee on that?
Correct.
Used to be $100.
Yeah, you have to close the full road to have that fee that we're proposing.
Okay, then the other one I had was a code enforcement fee. What was the comment on that?
So,
I think.
I'll defer to Ms. Luss, and she can kind of answer that a little bit better with more detail.
Sure. Councilor Wells and councilors, we, in one of the batches of code updates we've been bringing to council, one of the proposals that's under consideration, expected to come back for action in February, is to add Chapter 9.14.010, which is hours of construction, to that list of chapters that are enforceable under Title 20, our code enforcement chapter. just to clean up the enforcement process if there's a violation and people are doing construction outside of the codified work hours. In order to implement that code change, there needs to be code enforcement fees in the fee schedule. So the proposal is to add this to the fee schedule, and the fees, like the majority of our code enforcement fees, would be $250 for first violation, $500 for second, $1,000 for subsequent.
That answered my question. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Councilor Favela, we'll go to you next.
Thank you. I had the same question about the code enforcement, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. Councilor Davis?
There it is. Thank you. We already talked about the hours of construction. I appreciate that being in there. I know that's a point of heartburn for a lot of people. So I'm glad that we're going to have a little bit of teeth to that. I guess I'm curious about the rollout for the community partner with like TMI and whether they have a janitorial fee or not. I love the thought of it, right? Like, hey, if they're just coming in, not really making a mess, we don't really got to do a janitorial fee, making it as accessible as we can. I'm all about that. I guess I'm curious, the implementation piece, are we gathering the information about what type of activities on the front side and charging it? I guess what happens if they don't say they're doing it, and then somebody shows up and there's a mess? Are we charging retro? Are we setting ourselves up for maybe the next group that came in comes into a mess that we didn't think was actually going to be there? That kind of stuff. That's kind of where my mind's going. Do we understand how we're going to make that clean?
Yeah, we do. We're not doing anything different than we've already done before. We just have not had it in the fee schedule. So we're just putting it in there to be clear and provide clarity. But the process hasn't changed, and we haven't had any problems with the process itself.
Perfect. All right. That works for me then. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Burkle.
Just one comment. I would hope that we are doing our very, very best to get the permits out in a timely fashion regarding the new fees. I know that in the case of building, getting the permits is remarkably important as it holds the process up if we don't get them out quickly and efficiently. So thank you for doing that.
Great. Anybody else wishing to speak or give questions to staff on this? Okay, hearing none. Council, if you were good with this, I would entertain a motion for this resolution.
I move to adopt resolution number 671 as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Hamilton, seconded by Favela. Council, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. Motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Johnson, once again. Okay, we have our fourth item of business tonight. This is an amendment to the interlocal agreement between the City of Ridgefield and Clark Cowlitz Fire and Rescue. For that, we'll go back over to you, Mr. Johnson, once again.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So back in 2023, Council adopted ordinance number 1410, which designated a tax increment area for local tax infrastructure funding so that we could do several projects, mainly around the junction, both on the west side and the east side. As you can see, we've had quite a few different infrastructure projects completed down there, multiple roads and also a stormwater facility. With that, we entered into an interlocal agreement with Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue for voluntary mitigation to provide up to $2 million in mitigation to purchase land for a new fire station in Ridgefield. With that, the interlocal agreement was to expire December 31st of 2025 with the purchase prior to that date. The fire district has been reviewing different properties and has not made a final decision yet. So we just wanted to come back to you and extend the interlocal agreement. They are in the final stretch of looking at that. The fire district commissioners have already approved this interlocal agreement. It would extend it out to April 30th. There is a potential site that we'll be discussing in executive session, and then they'll be discussing later, but we wanted to give to April 30th to make sure that we can get through all the final decisions that they need to make as to whether or not this is the right place for them. So with that, I would enter any questions or discussion.
Great, thank you again, Mr. Johnson. Councilor Favela, we'll go to you first.
Thank you. This may be a question for Ms. Parker, but if needed, if we have to, could we extend this even further out again? Could we come back to it?
Yes, the process for amending an interlocal agreement is to do just what you're doing now, so you could do that further when and if the time it was necessary.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions, council, on this one? All right, that's easy. Thank you very much. If no other questions, no other discussion, I would entertain a motion for this one as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the interlocal agreement between the City of Ridgefield and the Clark Cowlitz Fire and Rescue.
I'll second.
Moved by Chipman, seconded by Burkle. Thank you very much. Council, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. And we will move on to our next item of business, which is ordinance number 1462. This is the MAJ Boschma RMUO zone change. And for that, we'll go to Ms. Luss in Community Development.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Council and members of the public. The item before you is a second ordinance reading for a proposed zone change, adding the mixed-use overlay to the MAJ Boschma properties. Next slide, please. To reorient council, this project's location is on 65th, east of the I-5 junction. Some notable landmarks in the area include Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue Station, the Clark College Advanced Manufacturing Center, aerials from 2023, so we don't actually see that. And then the new Ridgefield School District Elementary, which is currently under construction. The site is about 9¼ acres, and the proposal is to maintain the existing commercial regional business base zoning and add the Ridgefield mixed-use overlay. The effect of adding the zoning overlay is that in its current status as CRB, only commercial uses are allowed on the site. By adding the mixed-use overlay, it would be required at the time of development to develop as a mix of commercial and residential uses. Next slide. This area of the city has been envisioned for mixed-use development since the 2016 Comprehensive Plan update and continues to be so. The image on the right side of the screen here is from the Ridgefield Junction sub-area plan. It has a lot of colors and labels going on, but the site is outlined in black there with the arrow, and that red and yellow striping is indicated as commercial with residential. And then the image on the left side of the screen is from Council's preferred land use alternative that you selected this March as part of the ongoing comprehensive plan update, which envisions Area 5, which the site is near the center of that, indicated by the red dot, as a mixed-use area, sort of branching out from that Clark College campus location. So the proposal to add a zone change is just that. It is a zoning proposal. Any applications for development under an approved zoning overlay would have to subsequently go through a full development review process, including pre-application, land use review that would go to a public hearing at the hearing examiner, engineering and building review as well. That said, the applicant for this project does intend to submit for development application if the overlay is approved, and they've provided a conceptual development scheme for the site illustrating how the required mix of uses could be met. This is the same illustration that the council and the public saw during the first reading and public hearing for this proposal. Shows a mix of commercial and residential development, including some live-work units there along 65th. So the proposal went through public hearings previously at both Planning Commission and Council. Planning Commission heard testimony and ultimately voted 4-1 to recommend approval to Council. Council held a public hearing as well, heard testimony from the applicant during that public hearing. And ultimately, Council directed staff before bringing this back to engage with the applicant on a concomitant rezone agreement, which is a tool that basically sets conditions of a zone change that is applied concurrently with the zone change. Next slide, please. So there are several terms in the proposed concomitant rezone agreement, which I know Council has reviewed as part of your packet. The first one is the function, the basic function of the application, which is to add the mixed use overlay. The second would require the owner to provide 15 affordable units, split between those affordable to 80 households earning 80% of area median income and households earning 60% of area median income, in exchange for waiving traffic and park impact fees for those specific units, not for the rest of the project. There are code provisions currently dictating the timing for mixed use of when the residential and commercial portions are built. There are some provisions in the proposed concomitant rezone agreement that would shift those requirements a bit, as shown on the screen. And then in response to a lot of discussion and comments about access to and from this site, there is a provision as well for obtaining right-of-way sufficient for construction of a temporary 6-foot wide path between the site and the main intersection to the south, that Pioneer Street roundabout. Temporary because eventually, as the area develops, the property between this one and the roundabout will be required to do their own improvements to 65th. So those are the essential elements of the concomitant rezone agreement as proposed. With that, I will hand it back to you, Mayor, for any discussion and questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Lust. Okay, Council, for this one, what I'd like to do is go through questions for staff first, and then we can kind of go into discussion. I'll look around. Anybody have questions for Ms. Lust or anybody else on staff? Go ahead.
I would just like to say I'm most appreciative of the effort to make sure we have some affordable units in this new development. I think it's quite important that we as a city do that. And I think 15 is a great number, and thank you for the effort to make sure those are there.
Agreed, thank you. Good comment. Anybody else at this point? Questions? Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm curious about the temporary asphalt sidewalk in order to create some access points to like services and things like that. Given that it would be designated temporary, would it still have to comply with things like ADA and other sorts of regulations that we would have for a more permanent structure, or not? That's, I guess, a concern for me.
Any sidewalk the city requires to be constructed would need to comply with ADA standards. That is language that could be added to strengthen the statement, though.
I just want to make sure that, given that it's technically considered a temporary, that it's not, getting around those requirements. So that'd be great. Thank you.
Great. Councilor Wells.
One question I have, sidewalks, and maybe this is too deep in the woods. What would be the width on that? And I don't know whether there's anybody can tell you, whether it be the standard 6-foot or the 10-foot, like on Discovery Drive, the sidewalks on Pioneer Street. They're really wide.
As written, it would be 6-foot asphalt.
6 foot?
Asphalt.
Okay. Oh, that's a temporary one. That's not
correct.
That's not the permanent one. I was talking about permanent.
I understand your question. That would depend on the street section for 65th, which is not my area of expertise. I'd have to ask our engineering team, but that's something I can provide to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Favela.
Thank you. With this 3-year timeline, did from the residential to the commercial or the non-residential side, is the idea that it's going to be built in very specific structures, or are we going to be looking at a construction site for a total of 3 to 5 years until they're done with building?
So to make sure I understand your question,
Is it going to be a live construction site for that entire 3 years, or is it, we're gonna do this, and then we have, on this timeline, we're gonna do this section where it's organized, or is it just gonna be a full working site?
I'm not sure we have that information from the applicant. That's something I can follow up with you on.
Thank you.
Other questions for
Yeah,
staff?
I have another question. How many housing units total? Mr. Burkle said 15 affordable,
So 150?
160?
150. I think it's 10%, right?
Yeah, it's right around 150.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, and I remember when we went through this for, I believe, Royal Ridge and maybe even Legacy Trails, we were talking about adding some affordable housing component in there, and then there was also something in the language that said, like the period in which they have to hold those for affordable housing, I want to say it was like 5 years or something like that, but I remember we had a discussion around that.
I believe.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, well, and I didn't, I was looking through the staff report on this one. I didn't see anything on that. Maybe it was in there, but could you speak to that? Is there a length of time in which they have to hold those as affordable housing?
We will need to set a length of time. I believe in the previous agreement it was 15 years.
Yeah, I want to say that too. I remember I want to say we started at 5 or 10, but we pushed it to 15. So is that essential to improving this RMUO right now? Defining that?
I believe we would need to define that period.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just piggybacking on what Councilor Favela said. Out of curiosity, I recognize it says 20% of non-residential component, but I think it's important for us to clarify how long. I can imagine moving into one of the residences over there, and then it's just a continuation of a construction site for so many years. So getting clarification on that, if there's incentives to the developers or the builder to make the timeline more streamlined so that it's an enjoyable process for everyone in the process of that development, I think is something I would love more clarification on.
I would jump on that too. Like it would be good just looking at what we've gone through in the past with other developments, and not saying this one applies and it's very different, but you don't want your residents to live in a construction zone perpetually. So I'd just be curious just from the applicant what their timing is. I don't know if it necessarily affects whether we approve this, but I am curious to see what that looks like as far as the development process and how long it's going to take so that people can get through their lives. I do know that construction takes a long time, but I don't want it to take unnecessarily long. Anybody else with questions?
Just a question of clarification. Is this the location where the proposed hotel will be?
On the conceptual site plan, which again has not been submitted for development review, there is shown a roughly 100-room, I believe, hotel.
Can you go back to that slide really quick, Ms. Julie? There it is, yeah.
So that would be the southeast building on this plan.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead, Councilor Wells.
Yeah. Is there a possibility of deferring this till our next meeting so we can get some of these answers answered?
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. You don't have to take action on it tonight. And council, I would say that if you have lingering questions and you're not ready to approve it, then we probably shouldn't take action on it tonight. This is a big enough one. I think that we want to make sure we're pretty thorough on that one.
I agree.
Before moving ahead. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll add to, the pile of, questions about it. I'd like to see, and this might involve Mr. Thamer as well, but, what's the timeline for the improvements to 65th? In general, I love this concept. I love the citing for this concept. I think one of the things that we have, or at least I guess I take pride in, is the fact that we champion a lot of different types of housing types and development types in the city. And I think that a mixed-use project makes sense for this location. But I think about what 65th looks like right now, and having something that's going to have 3 access points onto it. I was just kind of going through the trip generation analysis, and I guess I'd love to see how this lines up with those 65th improvements, just so we're not creating a situation where things are not lined up, right? So as other things are getting clarified, I'd hope that that could be clarified as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Other questions?
I'm just gonna make a comment. It's a similar development like Legacy Trails, right next to Rose Hours there, where the Holsingers built the apartments in the back, and then they got the commercial building that's been built. It isn't occupied yet, but it's the same concept for over on 65th. That's it.
Okay. And then also, do you have, could you provide some comparisons? I don't know if you have this off the top of your head, but it might be something we come back to, just comparing the density from the current zoning to going to the RMUO. Does the density stay the same there, or is it increased density?
So, under the current zoning, residential uses aren't allowed, so there's not like a status quo density. It's 0.
Okay.
But we can provide more detail to council on what the density range would be if the RMUO was adopted. And it's codified between, it's a pretty large range. It's between 8 and 28 units per developable acre.
And with a max of, we're talking, is the multifamily complex there with 150 units, is that going back to that, is that the only place there's going to be residential? Because there's live work there that's not a part of that, right? So
that's counted in the total number of units.
Part of the 150? Yeah. Okay, so we're adding 150 new dwelling units potentially with this
approximately,
RMUO.
Yes.
Okay. Council, any other questions? If not, I would look to you. You know, again, we certainly could take action on this tonight, but it seems like there's enough questions. We might want to kick this to a later meeting and allow staff to do some additional fact finding. Am I getting kind of a thumbs up on that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that, and this will come back to us at a later date.
Sounds good. Thank you, council.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me get my... Okay, our next item of business is the second reading of ordinance number 1471. This is the Oberreuter and Denegard petition to annex, and Ms. Luss, we'll go back to you.
Thank you again, Mayor. This is the second reading of the petition to annex for the Oberreuter and Degenhardt properties. Next slide, please. So the location, as council has seen before during your previous public hearing for this proposal, is in the southwest corner of the G Creek Plateau sub-area. Wishing Wells subdivision is to the south. Cassini View subdivision is to the west. The entire proposed annexation area is just over 30 acres. And as a procedural reminder, this did initially go through the first step of an annexation, which is the intent to annex, with the 2 eastern parcels, so the center and eastern parcels owned by the Oberreuters. At that time, council heard a request from the owner of the western parcel to perform a geographic modification to the annexation area to include all 3 parcels. And as part of council's acceptance of that first step, the intent to annex, council did expand the total possible annexation area to include each of these 3 parcels, totaling, again, just about 30 acres. As part of the G Creek Plateau sub-area plan, the current comprehensive plan designation of this area is urban low-density residential. The current G Creek Plateau sub-area plan designation is conceptualized as residential low density 6, which requires a density range of between 4 and 6 units per developable acre. I don't have an aerial in front of you to show these 3 sites are fairly encumbered, as we've discussed before, by critical areas and habitat areas, as you've heard from some neighbors as well. So the developable area of the site is relatively limited. So as written, the annexation ordinance, which is required to assign a zoning designation, would assign residential low density 6 based on the comprehensive plan and the G Creek Plateau subarea plan. Based on the feedback we've heard from the community and from council ultimately around issues of access and impacts to critical areas primarily, as written, the ordinance would adopt the annexation and then require a subsequent zoning study to determine the residential low-density zoning that is appropriate for the site given its location and its constraints. So it's a bit of a unique feature in the drafted ordinance that council doesn't typically see, but based on your feedback, we consulted with the city attorney and are including that in the proposal as a reasonable form of mitigation that would require a careful study of what zoning this site could actually support for potential future development before that urban holding overlay, which is on the site, is lifted. And as a reminder, the urban holding overlay, it's already on the site. It's an overlay that is kept in place until capital facilities deficiencies are addressed. And in this case, we'd be adding a second condition to urban holding being lifted that would require the zoning analysis to be completed based on council's discussion and concerns. So with that, I think I will go ahead and hand it back to you, Mayor Cole, for any of council's questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lust. I think we'll have a few questions. So, do we have questions? I know I do. Okay. Start with Councilor Wells. Do you have any questions, sir?
I don't have any questions, but I got some comments.
Okay. Let's do questions first for staff, and then we'll come back around for comments. Any other questions for staff? Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Can you clarify, I know that 26th Avenue like stops in the developed area. What is the nature of that now? Like, how is that stopped? Does that make sense? Like, how is it stubbed?
It ends at the property line.
Yeah, okay. But it's not currently a cul-de-sac that we would have
No.
to adapt. It is like just
like a dead end.
It's just, yeah, the existing road width just ends. There's no hammerhead or cul-de-sac or turnaround feature
Okay.
there.
Okay, I just wanted to get a better understanding of what that actually looked like. Thank you.
Other questions, council? I'll say that I appreciate adding in the zoning analysis. Who incurs the cost for that? Is that the applicants or is that the city that's incurring the cost for the analysis?
The city would bear that cost.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, any discussion, any comments for discussion? We'll go to those. Councilor Wells, we'll start with you, sir.
Okay. I've got a little bit of institutional knowledge, how the donut hole was created about 3 comp plans ago. And in the G Creek Plateau, all the residents affected in G Creek Plateau, before it was formed, they came in and everybody put their, Mr. Stoss can say that they put their 2 cents in on it at that time. They decided what the plateau would look like eventually. And so we knew that in the back comp plan, we had too much area in the city of Ridgefield, so the donut hole was created. That stayed in the county, and we had city all the way around it. We turned around, and like I said, we put the G Creek Plateau Consortium together. Everybody decided that someday the city would not require anybody to annex, but anytime they wanted to annex, they could come to the city and be annexed. The only thing that we are talking about tonight is annexation of the property. It's not any development, no roads, no nothing. It's giving them their right to turn around and move forward at their wish, which they were granted in the past.
I'm definitely some important context there, so thank you for sharing that. Other comments? Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lastu. I appreciate the reasonable, like the rezone, the mitigation and looking into that. I feel a lot better than I did in a previous meeting. I still don't feel great. I respect Mr. Wells very much and agree with everything he's saying, but I have a hard time compartmentalizing. We're looking at Envision Ridgefield 2045. We're looking for the next 20 years, and I'm supposed to just be like, nope, we're just looking at an annexation. That doesn't make sense to me as a citizen, as a person, that I'm not then looking at the future to think how this property could be developed, and it doesn't seem like smart growth to me. So I feel as a council member torn between understanding we're growing as a city and we have state mandates and we are looking to grow in every way we can, when there's critical area in a very limited section that we're gonna, I mean, it isn't quite clicking for me, and I wanna be honest about that, because I think that that's what the 7 voices are up here to do. So I do have a lot of hesitation in approving this. I'm hearing the concerns of the people that came in. I recognize I'm supposed to just look at it as one piece, but that's not really how my brain works. So I'm just trying to maybe get more clarification or feel better about that, but I haven't gotten there yet. So that's just my comment so far.
Great. Councilor Favela.
I agree. Initially, when this came to us, I was the person who brought up some of the issues that I had concerns with, and I was made very clear that we were not here for those concerns, but annexation is one thing, development is another, but we know they go hand in hand together, and you have to be able to look at the future. And I recognize that this is just an annexation, and we are not here to tell people what they can and cannot do with their property, and that's also what makes my job up here individually really difficult, because you don't want to take the rights away from somebody, but you also have to look critically at who is going to be impacted, what's going to be impacted, how it's going to be impacted, and how we're growing. And to see this property come in knowing that ultimately they would like to develop it, it does not make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, and I think maybe we will find that out in this study. But I want to be very clear that I too am not comfortable with the moving forward, even though that the moving forward is not what we're here for. We're only here for the annexation.
I'll speak to this too. I want to share what my colleagues have spoken about, and I think one of the comments that were made earlier tonight was talking about the bald eagle, and at the top of the trees, right where, and that tree would not be there if they developed the area. And that should make an impact on us, because when you look at this community and you look at what draws people to come to Ridgefield, it's not the plethora of houses. It's not the commercial development. Those are all great things. The services we can provide, the exceptionally well-designed and built community that we have here, I think are all definitely attributes. And then as well as that, it's all the critical areas. It's all the wildlife that we get to enjoy. And that the trade-off is the more you developed, the more you develop those lands, the less you get of some of those things that make this area beautiful. And so I think that I'm really encouraged to see there's a zoning analysis, and that would maybe inform a lot of things. And again, this is just an annexation. It is not a development plan or anything like that. But with that said, we're also in the middle of a comprehensive plan, and when we go through that, there is definitely some some tension points that we're working through with the county as far as like hitting our density targets, and demonstrating that we can hit our current density targets within our existing urban growth area. I think it's essential to making a case for the additional areas that we're looking at as a part of our comprehensive plan. So I guess with that, maybe staff could speak to this as well. What are the implications there? Like, you know, what does this do for our, like, how does this help our case in density? What are some considerations there that maybe council can bring into consideration as well? Does this make a meaningful impact on hitting those current density targets within our existing UGA, or is it kind of a nominal impact?
A couple ways to answer that question. In terms of the magnitude of the impact on our numbers in terms of capacity for housing versus the entire UGA, this area doesn't yield a ton of lots due to the critical areas mentioned. In terms of how our planning process works and council's preferred land use alternative, and I'll let Mr. Stewart add to this if necessary, but that preferred land use alternative does envision over the 20-year planning horizon between 2025 and 2045 annexation of lands in our subareas, so the G Creek Plateau subarea as well as the Carty Road subarea, as a way to show that Ridgefield is in good faith doing what Ridgefield can to provide housing, jobs, et cetera, in the existing UGA before we consider expansion.
Great, thank you. I think that provides some clarity. Mayor Pro Tem, I think you have a question or a statement.
Yeah, this whole thing really causes me a lot of concern too, because I believe that people have the right to do with their property what they want to do. If they own the property and they want to sell it, I think that they should have the right to do that. But on the other hand, I totally understand what this is going to do to the Windy Hill, to the neighborhood. So a suggestion might be that the HOA might get together and talk about purchasing that property from them. I don't know if you've thought about that or not, but that would be a way to be able to preserve, you know, what you want to keep there. If you wanted to purchase that property from those people, I don't know what that would be like, but that's just a suggestion. But, you know, this is a hard thing when we try to decide whether or not people should be able to sell their property or not up here. It's a difficult decision for all of us, so just a thought.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Councilor Burkle.
Are we setting a precedent here regarding who can and who cannot annex into the city?
Well,
can you expand on that a little bit, Councilor?
Well, I'm just concerned that are we going to tell everybody you cannot come into this city because of concerns expressed by citizenry? I'm confused. I'm not sure I have the answer.
I think we should go ahead with the annexation and then go ahead and have the study done. It doesn't mean that development's going to come just because we annex it in.
I think that's a critical differentiator there is that this is an annexation in an area that's currently in our UGA. It does not implicitly mean that we are going to have development right there. It just means that we're bringing that into the city. I think I'm looking around at my other fellow council members, and we're all pretty concerned as far as the impact to the critical areas. I don't think that annexation necessarily changes that, but I do want a lot more in-depth information there too to make sure before we get to the development stage, because I do not want to develop something that is not going to yield meaningful difference in the density targets that we're trying to hit at the expense of impacting those critical areas. And so that's where I think the zoning analysis, but if I understand you right, Ms. Lust, we have to approve the annexation in order to trigger that zoning analysis. That's the order of operations right there, correct?
That's correct. We wouldn't have authority to perform a zoning analysis on properties that are in Clark County's jurisdiction.
And I would think that our residents, especially the many residents who are here tonight who are speaking on this and have shared concern about that, would probably want to know what the results of that study would yield as well. I don't know if that necessarily change anybody's mind on that, as far as where the development goes. But again, I think more information couldn't hurt. And I don't have a problem with the annexation. What I have a problem with or concern about at this point is looking at the development. And it's also, I'll just kind of point this out, and this is probably more a statement geared towards the county council, but a lot of the pressure that we get is preserving critical open spaces and green spaces, namely agricultural land and resource lands. And ironically, what we're trying to do here is demonstrate that we can hit our density targets, but at the expense of critical areas. And so I kind of wonder what our counterparts at the county council would say, who are trying to prevent the expansions that we're looking at, because it seems a little backwards that we're trying to demonstrate that at the expense of the very argument that they're making. So it feels a little haphazard to me.
Yeah.
Councilor Wells.
I wanted to just piggyback on top of the mayor. That was my biggest concern is when we're going through the comp plan and the UGA, we have it in our urban growth area. And so they automatically figure that we have that area to develop. And so I guess the word I'm trying to come up with is a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. It's a double-edged sword because the county already figures we have that, so we don't need any more area. Mm-hmm. And here we're trying to get some more industrial area, and I don't have the answer, but I just go back to it's a double-edged sword. Be darned if you do and be darned if you don't. Usually use other language.
And Mayor and Council, forgive the interruption on that. Just to that point, you're talking about the comp plan, the county assumptions for conversion of critical areas inside urban growth areas. This area, every area inside our urban growth area, they are assuming over the next 20 years, 50% of critical areas will convert to development. One of the pushbacks that the city has made to the county's assumptions is that the critical area conversion in Ridgefield is significantly lower. It's less than half that. And we can show that in the development patterns that we've seen. But to your point, Mayor, and to Councilor Wells, yes, the county is assuming that we can do as much as we can do all this growth and development inside the boundary, and in some part because we would be just converting critical areas, half of them in that. That's one of the assumptions that they've made. So it is one we have pushed back on and said that's not what we see and do in Ridgefield, but it is something that the county has been pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fair consideration. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. So I'm trying to look at both sides here, but I think it's interesting that we're saying we're going to do the study, might not develop. It might not develop is what we're telling everyone, but then we're saying we're doing this to hit development requirements by the county. So it's like, what side are we talking out of right now?
So a zoning study wouldn't say it might not develop as a whole. What a zoning study would look at is it would look at, do we have the appropriate zoning in place? Right now it's RLD 6 units per acre, as Ms. Lust indicated. And there's a range within that. So there would be an analysis of what are the potential impacts associated with that? What are the potential traffic impacts, critical area impacts, and otherwise? Also, there's density transfers when you have a significant area of critical areas. Our critical area ordinances protect those critical areas and buffers associated with that. However, when you have that significant area, then usually a property owner in most areas then will get some allowance for increased densities in the areas that are developable. Now that doesn't exist everywhere. In the Carty Road sub-area plan, that transfer of density from critical areas that can't be developed to developable areas is not allowed. In the G Creek Plateau, it was allowed in that sub-area plan. So part of the analysis would be, is the zoning correct? What area is developable of this? Roughly, what developable area is there? And how many units per acre, how many units of housing make sense in there? So it isn't an analysis to say, no, this would not develop. It would be how it develops and how do you do the things to protect what council deems that you want to see protected and how you would do that and then what that means as far as impacts and number of units.
Yeah, I think what my point was just the inevitability is development, right? Like that's what it looks like, whether it's this big or 10 or 20, like the inevitability is development. So I think we should be transparent in that the annexation, the eventual goal is development. So I just don't want to be disingenuous and being like, we're going to do the study and then maybe we'll see what that lands like. And that might just be a layman speaking for the public rather than having the nitty gritty behind the details. But I just want to be very clear on our position on that, knowing that that is the inevitability.
It's incredibly important when we say it will develop, what will develop. That's the important part. So for a layperson or anyone, they want to know what's going to develop. What's it going to look like? What's going to get torn out? What's the picture in that? So when we say it will develop, is it all 30 acres? No, absolutely not. Because there are critical area ordinances that will protect a lot of that. How much? That's what this analysis will help us better understand. And then for the area that would develop, what size of lots? How many are there? How many people? How many cars? Let me go on that. But as far as it will develop, all areas within a UGA are expected to develop over the 20-year time frame. That's what Ms. Lust was indicating is a requirement under the Growth Management Act, that areas within a urban growth area will develop. However, not all areas. Areas that actually are appropriate for development, that are not critical areas, that do not have the steep slopes, on and on and on. So that's why it is a little more difficult to talk about, like, all right, what's it going to look like? But that's why we would be doing this analysis, is to then bring that back to you and in the public, bring that back to you so you could see it and have a better picture.
So are you saying that like it's currently potentially zoned as RLD 6, of the 30 acres, roughly half are developable?
We have not done that analysis yet. That would be part of what we would be looking at. There are very rough indicators that we can look at this point.
Right.
But it would be a little more detailed analysis of it wouldn't be a full delineation of wetlands and critical areas, but we have pretty good tools to be able to help us get a rough look at it.
Right, but like the assumptions being RLD 6, right? And so like the trade-off would be you can't develop all 30 acres. And so, and the areas that are developable, you would increase density in those areas. Is that what you're saying?
Not quite. The question would be in the areas that are developable, what density of development could they reasonably support based on impacts to traffic, impacts to critical areas?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that there is, to further expand on that, there is a possibility that it would be less than 6.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. I saw other hands. Councilor Favela.
I know in this study that we'll do, it will look at the traffic impacts, but does that also include alternate roads that could be built to access that property where it's not going through the current neighborhood where it's stubbed out at?
That could certainly be part of the analysis.
I think it should be. I agree.
When would that analysis be complete, approximately? And name, like more specifically, before or after the completion of the comp plan?
So given the timelines associated with the comp plan adoption and when our timelines appear to be headed based on what the county's work is going, that would be like fall is likely when we would be coming for final adoption of a comp plan. I would not expect to see final analysis on this done prior to the work on the comp plan. There is a ton of work that our planning staff is doing right now to work on our 20-year growth plan. So to expect that we'll be able to actually come back with this piece of it prior to that time, I think is probably a stretch. It's not something we've certainly talked about yet, but I think it would likely be a stretch to think that that would happen prior to that. Obviously, like Ms. Lust indicated in the ordinance, if it was adopted as drafted, no development application could be actually processed prior to that analysis being completed and being brought to the council.
Of course. Okay, great. Thank you. Councilor Favela again.
Sorry, I just have one more question. If this property was to be annexed in and then the owner turned around to sell it, would this still remain as a condition on the property, irrelevant of who owns it?
That's correct. The ordinance is tied to the property.
There's one thing that hasn't been brought up. There's an existing roadway that accesses the property now and they access it in and out every day. It's a loaner, so there are more than one access that is available.
That would be part of what we'd be looking at.
Fiscally feasible or not is another thing. That was
Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the thoughtfulness and the commentary that, we've heard so far. It is tough. I believe that we have more tools available to us, and clearly I'd love to, maybe get clarification from Claire if I'm mistaken, but I think we have more tools to preserve critical areas by completing annexation as compared to staying out of it. I mean, essentially, this is a parcel that is a part of our math. That's what the urban growth area, they've already said, this is going to belong to Richfield when they go knocking on Richfield's door and say, we want to be in the city limits. And that population is already a part of our math. And so to turn it away, we would be having to make up elsewhere for that because we have been assigned a certain amount of growth. I believe that we need to preserve critical areas whenever we possibly can, for the reasons you already talked about. And I think we are going to have tools by going through this process to preserve the areas that you can't replicate, but by declining an annexation, it just gets stuck, and then we have to shift things elsewhere. And I would agree with the sentiment by Mayor Pro Tem where, at what point is that denying some property rights? And so I think that it makes sense, and it gives us actually a lot more tools to be thoughtful and to do something that is in alignment with what the city wants.
Yeah, I think it's a good summation. The way to say that is that there's more tools available to preserve those critical areas if we annex than if we don't. And then kind of going back, I guess, completing that loop to what Councilor Wells was saying originally, those property owners were told they were originally left to form the donut hole 3 comp plans ago, according to you. And so, but there was always preserved as an option for them to come back into the city or come into the city, if they went. So I think with that in mind, I am not opposed to annexation of this area in itself, but I am still deeply concerned about the critical areas there and then what the development would do to that. So I'll support annexation, but with that caveat that I'm going to pay close attention to what that analysis concludes. Other comments, other questions at this point, Council? Yeah. If there are none, I'm going to move things forward, but I want to just make sure everyone's had a chance to discuss it. Okay, good. If that's the case, then Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1471, ordinance of the City of Richfield, Washington, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Richfield approximately 30.21 acres identified as Overrooter and Degenhart annexation area and assigning the zoning of the annexed area as residential low density 6 with an urban holding 10 overlay.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Council, with that concluded, I would entertain a motion.
No, doesn't she have to call the roll?
She will, yeah, after the motion's made.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with ordinance number 1471, annexing in this property.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Davis. Any remaining discussion, Council?
Mayor, to clarify, it was moved to annex, I'm assuming, as presented with the conditions as presented?
Is that correct, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Any remaining discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Favela.
No.
Councilmember Wells.
Aye.
Councilmember Burkle.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamilton.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Aye.
Mayor Cole.
Aye. Okay, thank you, council. Ayes have it, motion carries. And we'll move on. Okay, that concludes our business portion of the evening this evening. We do have a public hearing on another annexation. This will be a public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1472. This is the Kelly Windy Hills petition to annex. Ms. Luss, back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So the item before you now is a first reading and public hearing only, so no action requested at the state. With that, I'll get into the presentation. So the, sorry, just waiting a moment.
Yeah, you can give it a minute. That's okay. People can up.
Yeah, let me know.
30 seconds. Okay, I think we can proceed.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So the proposal is for a total of 7 parcels, about 32 acres in the eastern portion of the G Creek Plateau subarea. For some project background on this, it originally came to council as an intent to annex in June of 2025 as 1 parcel, which is what's shown on the maps before you. This is the parcel with Windy Hills Winery on it. That's on the eastern portion. During the intent to annex meeting, council, as is the case with any intent to annex deliberation and decision, had the option to geographically modify the boundary of the maximum potential annexation area, and council did so to add 6 additional parcels to the south, as shown on the next slide, I believe. There you go. To kind of square off the maximum annexation area there along 35th and 15th. The black dot indicates the original parcel. So with that action to accept the intent to annex with the modified geography, the applicant was authorized to move forward circulating a petition to annex amongst these 7 properties. They did so and obtained signatures from property owners representing all 7 of the properties. So now our next step is the public hearing on this petition to annex. Again, it is approximately 32 acres. The area is in the urban growth area and adjacent to current city limits, so it is eligible for annexation under the direct petition method. And at the initial stage of the intent to annex, the owner of that largest parcel with Windy Hills Winery did indicate that they do not intend to abandon, or well, it's probably not the right word, but Windy Hills Winery, their intent is to continue operating the winery on the eastern portion of that site. They did indicate that moving forward, they would be interested in developing the western portion of that site. Again, that would have to go through a full development process, including review under the G Creek Plateau development standards. As part of that G Creek Plateau subarea plan, the zoning for this property is residential low density 4 with a residential cluster overlay that, as part of that sub-area planning process, is something that the city and stakeholders came up with as a tool to preserve open space and view corridors throughout the area as parcels develop. So again, residential low density 4, residential cluster overlay per the G Creek Plateau sub-area plan. With that, Mayor, I'll go ahead and turn it back to you for any questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Lass. Council, questions for staff on this annexation request? Look around.
I just got a comment, we're back to the same thing we were just talking about. This is just an annexation, it's not a development proposal. So concerns about the road, concerns of all those other things will come down the road. It's just we're discussing annexation only at this time. Other than, Ms. Lust, I didn't understand this annexation with the existing business there. Do we have to make a comment that it is included as grandfathered in or whatever that way?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wells, for that question. So as I mentioned, the the owner of that winery property intends to continue that use, which is technically an agricultural use. So under typical circumstances, if that came into a city limits, it would become a legal non-conforming use. We are working on ways that the ordinance could be written to add some flexibility there in terms of that owner being able to do improvements to the winery, the structure, the business, the land, without necessarily having to go through a land use review process for modifications to a non-conforming use. So that is something we're working on and we'll bring back to you at the second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Great, council. Other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll go directly to open the public hearing to receive testimony. The public hearing is now open. If you signed up with the city clerk before the meeting, your name will be called and you will receive permission to unmute your microphone or step up to the podium. If you did not sign up in advance but would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature in your toolbar. If you're joining by phone, press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. The city clerk will grant you permission to speak. When speaking, please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. There will be no back and forth discussion with the council. This public hearing is now open. Okay, we do have one person signed up for to speak. That is Mr. Roy Garrison. Come on up, Mr. Garrison.
Roy Garrison, 1186 South 30th Place, Ridgefield. I live within a quarter of a mile of this annexation. And Mayor and council members, you've heard me before talk about it. I believe in the annexations of any of that area that we now call the G Creek Plateau. I totally support this one. You, as growth management has said needs to occur, we're going to see growth whether we like it or not. I would suggest maybe that the city consider, because I just understand that the winery is agricultural. The city needs to get some agricultural ordinances so that they are legal within the city. Because we got Red Truck Farm out there, this next door's got a very successful agricultural business. We have some other people that have 15, 20 acres to raise livestock, and all these people that are living in the houses come driving, walking down the roads where there's no sidewalks and stuff because they think they're walking in the country. So they gotta get some agricultural zoning in that area, you know, and let's move forward. But I would recommend, because there are people involved in this that are gonna be very influential in the city, and you're gonna wanna chat with some of them as you move your roads forward to Pioneer Street along 35th there, as you extend 35th. So I would hope that you would take all that into consideration, pass this annexation, and get the whole daggone area in. You have the ability to do, if you wish to, grow the hair to do it. And I don't have any, but boy, I'd support it. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison. That concludes who is signed up for public, for comment during public hearing. Is there anybody else wishing to give comment while public hearing is still open on this particular annexation request? Is there anybody in the room? Okay, Miss Julie, is there anybody online?
Not seeing anyone online, Mayor.
Okay, I'll give the room one more chance. Seeing none, we will close public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1472, ordinance of the City of Richland, Washington, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Richfield, approximately 32.63 acres identified as the Kelly Windy Hills annexation area and assigning the zoning of the annexed area as residential low density 4 with residential cluster overlay and urban holding 10 overlay.
Great, thank you very much. And again, this is first reading only. This will come back to council again at a later time. Okay, we are going to go into our second public comment portion of the evening. Anybody wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing, which we just had, may come forward at this time to the podium or use the raise hand feature located at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in the room who plans to give public comment?
They're all leaving us.
Okay. Is there anybody online, Miss Julie?
Not seen one online, Mayor.
Mr. Garrison, are you coming back for round 2?
Yeah, I get a second shot at you.
I would like to thank the city staff, and particularly whoever fixed the potholes in the corner of 15th and 35th. There was one there, it was that deep, then it was on the turn, and I used to get a kick out of it because a lot of these people that moved in there in that new development there of Lennar Homes, they'd come around there going like a son of a gun around that corner, and they'd drop off into that. A couple of them lost a wheel. So I appreciate the city getting that thing fixed, and you've done a good job on it, but it's still a rough road.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm sure Mr. Thamer and Ms. Lang appreciate the comments, recognizing their hard work. Anybody else wishing to give public comment in the room tonight? Ms. Julie, once more, anybody online?
Not seen anyone online.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll close public comment. We're going to go to council reports. Council, we still have an executive session ahead of us tonight. I do recognize that this council, we started with a 6 a.m. briefing this morning and spent some time on the Hill in Olympia today, and it's been a long day. So maybe pick one thing, one highlight of your last couple of weeks to talk about. And is there anybody itching to go first? No, we'll go to Councilor Hamilton first then.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It was awesome being up at Olympia. Just side note, real quick, have to mention it. But if I'm just going to talk about one thing, I just wanted to let everybody know about an upcoming community event that RMS is putting on, their Micro Enterprise Series. It's going to be at Old Liberty Theater this Sunday, January the 25th from 12 to 2, and it's how to launch your own podcast. So I thought that could be a really cool all ages event for so many different people to learn, and it should be fun. And those Micro Enterprise Series that RMS is putting on are really cool. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, Councilor Burke, we'll go to you next.
Capacity so as to move on with business.
All right.
I got one. On the 9th, I attended a port meeting, and the potential developer down there gave a concept of the plaza and hotel that they're proposing to put down there. It was just a concept.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Councilor Vavella.
I have nothing of significance to add. Thank you.
Councilor Davis.
Yeah, the only thing I'll share, last Tuesday, had the first CTRAN Board of Directors meeting of the year. We elected a new chair. We talked about all things related to our board composition, and that will be heading back to the board composition committee this next month. So we will see what the next chapter of that story looks like. But I feel like oftentimes we lose sight of all the awesome work that CTRAN does, and their numbers are growing and growing and growing every year since COVID. And so it's really been a rewarding organization to be a part of. So hoping it's a productive year.
Great. Thank you.
I'll pass too.
You'll pass too. Okay, great. I'll just touch really quick. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Vavella, and I attended a MLK Day celebration up at ALNA earlier this week on Monday, and it's always a good one to do. There's a lot. That was one. It's put on by a group called iUrban Teen, who's doing a lot to provide education and life enrichment experiences to students and teens who are in urban environments and disadvantaged youth. So it's always good to celebrate that day. It's a good reminder that justice, that equality, and peace are still worth the struggle, despite maybe the tensions that we're wrestling with in our own democracies right now. So I was fortunate enough to participate with my colleagues in that, and just take a moment to reflect on that and the legacy, the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So with that, that's all from me. We'll go to Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and community. Just one thing before I ask to extend your day by another period of time is thank you for all the work that you did over the last couple of days in Olympia. As the mayor mentioned, the council was very well represented in Olympia, going and speaking with our legislators about the council and community's priorities, including downtown lighting and a connection at 219th for our community and an inclusive play area at Horns Corner. So very important priorities for the community that were carried very effectively by the council, and it matters. It matters that the council goes up there and has those conversations with legislators. They are seen, and there are very few other jurisdictions that are as well represented. So thank you for the time that you spent on that. We know your paychecks don't cover it for city council checks. So thank you for the work that you did on that. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, we're good. We'll go to Mr. Thamer in Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, Public Works held a consultant and contractor open house, and our team presented on 14 projects, and we had over 68 people in attendance, which was about 3 times what we had last year. And we received a lot of positive feedback from the attendees about how much they enjoyed the process, learning about our projects, and that they wished other jurisdictions would do the same thing.
Oh, that's great.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, any questions for Mr. Thamer?
No,
All right.
but I do have a comment. I also attended that meeting, and I was impressed with all the consultants that were there, the engineers that were there, and contractors. There were contractors also. They were all paying attention, and they did, and the team did a terrific job of tag teaming, I guess is the word to say. One would give a presentation for 2 minutes, and they'd sit down and somebody else would get up and talk. So nobody got ho-hum or had their eyes start drooping or everything else, because it would just move so fast. And that hour went terrific and fast. It was the first time I've ever been to one like that, and it was exceptional.
Great job.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Johnson in City Finance.
I do not have anything else tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Questions for Mr. Johnson? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Lust?
Thank you. Nothing else for me tonight either.
Great, okay. And then we will go to Ms. Parker. Good to see you again in person.
It is great to be here in person. I am getting all settled in my new office and getting to recognize staff by their face instead of just their voice. And you guys are keeping me really busy, so I am quite enjoying it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, any questions for the city attorney? All right, thank you very much. And Ms. Notnaris?
Just real quick, a reminder that February 1st Saturday is coming up, and the theme for that is Books and Bowls. This is the 4th time that we've had that theme, and we created this event specifically to support the downtown merchants, and all of the information is on the website and social media.
Great, thank you very much. Questions for the Deputy City Manager? All right, and then last but certainly not least, Chief Doriot.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for RPD?
Chief Doriot, do we know whether or not the person who did the trip through our roundabout has insurance?
That individual has not been identified. We had a suspect vehicle and a possible suspect, but the officers are still working on that case.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, with that, that includes our council and staff reports. We do have an executive session tonight. This is pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, Section 1B. This is to consider the selection of a site or acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such a consideration would cause a likelihood to increase the price. Council will go into executive session for
what we'd be asking for is enter at 8:20, give yourselves 5 minutes or so, or 3 to 5 minutes just to kind of take a little break and go and come out of it at 8:50. So a 30-minute executive session
Okay, council will return at approximately 8:50.
with
and
no action being requested.
no action will be taken at this time. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, it is 9:25 p.m. Council is just returning from executive session. No action will be taken tonight. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.